Hello and welcome. So, when you put your hard earned money into stocks or bonds or really any investment, have you ever stopped to wonder what's really protecting it? What's standing behind the scenes, making sure everything is on the up and up? Well, the answer isn't just one simple thing. It's actually a pretty complex, multi layered framework of laws, regulators, and rules. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but trust me, understanding it is absolutely key to having confidence in the market. So, let's dive in and see how it all works, shall we? Okay, first things first, we have to start with the foundation. Before we can even begin to talk about specific investment rules, we need to get a handle on the legal ground they're all built on. This is the bedrock for everything that follows. So, Malaysia's legal system is this really fascinating blend of different sources. Right at the very top, you have the federal constitution, that's the supreme law of the land. Then you've got laws passed by parliament, which we call acts, and laws from the individual states, known as enactments. Underneath that, you find all the detailed rules and regulations. And then, layered over all of that, you have principles from English common law, and for Muslims, Islamic law. It's this complex legal tapestry that really creates the stable environment you need for a financial market to even exist. Right, so with that whole legal system in place, you might be asking, why does the fast-paced world of finance need its own special set of laws? Why create this extra layer of complexity? What's the mission here? Well, it really all boils down to one incredibly important word: confidence. The entire purpose, the core objective of all this regulation, is to build and maintain your trust as an investor. It's all about making sure people believe the market is fair, it's efficient, and it's transparent. Because without that trust, the whole system it wouldn't work. And hey, you don't just have to take my word for it. Just look at the mission statement from the main regulator, the Securities Commission Malaysia. It says it all right there. Their job is to make sure markets, for everything from regular stocks to more complex things like derivatives, are fair, secure, and transparent. It's this constant balancing act, you see, between protecting investors and still encouraging innovation. And here they are. This is the main character in our story today, the Securities Commission, or just the SC. This is the central authority set up to oversee all of the country's capital markets. So think of them as the primary guardian of that mission we just talked about. So now we know why we have all this regulation, and we know who the main regulator is. So let's get into the what. The SE's power comes from three key laws. These are the very pillars of financial regulation in Malaysia. And here they are. You've got the Securities Commission Act, the Capital Markets and Services Act, and the Securities Industry Act for central depositories. I know, the names are a mouthful. Don't worry about memorizing them. Just think of these three together as the complete rulebook for how money moves in the market. Okay, first up is the Securities Commission Act from 1993. If we think of the market as a big game, this is the act that literally creates the referee. It established the Securities Commission and gave it all the power it needs to regulate, to supervise, to investigate, and to enforce the rules of the game. Next, we have the Capital Markets and Services Act. So if that first act created the referee, this one is the official rulebook for the game itself. This is a huge, comprehensive law that defines everything from what legally counts as a security all the way to the strict code of conduct for every single licensed professional out there. And finally, there's the Securities Industry Act for central depositories. To finish our analogy, this one is the official scorekeeper. You see, in the modern market, you don't get a physical paper stock certificate anymore. This law governs the whole electronic or scriptless system that keeps a perfect digital record of who owns what. It makes sure every trade is settled correctly and super efficiently. So what's really interesting is how these big, high-level laws actually get put into practice day to day. It works as a hierarchy. At the very top, you have the acts passed by Parliament. Then, to actually implement those acts, the SC creates more detailed regulations. And then, to help everyone understand and comply with those regulations, the SC issues guidelines, which are basically official how-to manuals. And these guidelines are incredibly practical. They tell a huge fund management company exactly what it needs to do to prevent money laundering, for example. Or they'll show an individual dealer the precise steps they need to take to get licensed. They're the things that translate dense legal language into a clear set of do's and don'ts for the whole industry. All right, so we've got the laws, we've got the rules, and we've got the guidelines. But who's actually enforcing all this? Let's meet the watchdogs who are out on the beat every single day. At the very top, you've got two major heavyweights. We've already met the Securities Commission on the left, which, as we know, is the guardian of the investment markets. And right alongside it, you have Bank Negara Malaysia, the central bank, which keeps a very close eye on all the banks and insurance companies. You can think of them as the two main pillars of government oversight. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just the government. The system also uses what are called self-regulatory organizations, or SROs. These are basically industry groups that police their own members. The upside? They can be way faster, more innovative, and more in tune with what's actually happening in the market. The risk, though? Well, there's a potential for a conflict of interest. It's a constant balancing act between leveraging industry expertise and ensuring impartial enforcement for everyone. Okay, let's pull all that together. If you remember anything from this, let it be these 4 things. The whole point of the system, the why, is all about creating investor confidence. The foundation, the what, is those 3 key laws. The method, the how, is that toolkit of acts, regulations, and guidelines. And finally, the enforcers, the who, are that mix of government regulators and the industry's own SROs. And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. With all this new technology, fintech, crypto, things are changing faster than ever. So the big question for the future is this: what's the right balance? How much control should come from official government bodies? And how much can we really trust the industry to regulate itself? The answer to that is going to shape the safety and the future of all of our investments.